Can I get a loan to start a small business? The answer is absolutely. And not only that, I'm going to tell you 5 different ways you can do it. As entrepreneurs and business owners, we know that if we have a clear plan, anything becomes possible. And if you can have a clear plan, a clear process to create that plan, and a way to create clarity with your partner or spouse, you can drive to amazing heights. All right, so I started my first of 16 companies when I was 19. I've built them, bought them, sold them, and wrecked a couple. I've used all sorts of different types of financing strategies and different ways to get loans and different things. The biggest thing when you're doing it is making sure that you are very, very comfortable in what the likelihood of success is. So in fact, that's what the whole book, Aspiring Solopreneur and aspiringsolopreneur.com, the courses there is 100% set so that you can do a tremendous amount of work in advance to know without any shadow of a doubt, man, this is a no-brainer, our likelihood of success. When we pull the trigger, we're gonna go through the roof. We also talk about how to build a team of advisors and a lot of different ways to look at financing. So of the traditional ways of looking at financing, if you're thinking of doing how do you fund this? Well, the traditional way that everybody always initially goes to is like, oh, I need to go to the bank. Okay, realistically, if you're starting from scratch with nothing, might be some pretty big headwinds to get money from the bank to start a business, depending on how much you need. However, if you have personally have good credit, you may be able to co-sign for loan for that. Now, some ways to even mitigate it even more is if you say, look, I'm an expert in this field, boom. I've talked with this potential customer here, boom. They've given me this contract that says they will pay me for these things in advance, or pay me for doing this work. If you take that to the bank, well, now this starts to make more sense. The bank's gonna be, okay, I'm feeling more comfortable with it. Now, if you have a brand new entity, we talk about new LLCs and things like that on this channel, you're still gonna have some headwinds around that, but it's gonna make it a little bit easier. But looking at traditional bank financing, there's a bunch you need to look at, but one of the key things is finding a great small business banker. And again, there's a lot of videos on this channel that talk about banking and how to find the right banker, and we spend a lot of time in the books and the courses on that. But making sure that they're small business and focus and they'll help you is gonna be important. Okay, so the second way of doing financing, and I'm not necessarily recommending these. I've done a couple of these, but these are things that people do, but you have to be 100% confident that you're going to be successful. Not throwing the dice going, God, I hope this works. If that's the case, don't do this, period. But I've seen people use credit cards. I started a business back in the 90s. I did a coffee house and wine bar. Still exists 30 years plus later, which is fantastic. It shows that it was a good business. But I put $60,000 on every credit card I had. It was some of the dumbest things I ever done. I did. I didn't know that I couldn't fail, so I was an idiot about it. Really expensive money. Everything was at 18 to 20%. Shouldn't have done it, but it worked out and was able to get through that. It is an option, and I've known of people that do that, but I would be very, very, very cautious using that. Now, another alternative is to do some existing collateral thing that you may have. And one of those is a lot of times people will use what's called a HELOC, Home Equity Line of Credit. So if you happen to own your own home and you have equity in there, you can sometimes go to the bank and get a loan against that equity, and then you can use that money and loan yourself that money or loan your entity that money to get your startup. The nice thing with that is that you get to write it off your taxes because it's a mortgage expense, at least the way it is when the time of this filming. So another possible way is to start finding other people, OPM, other people's money, but find those people who might have an interest, who believe in you, and you've got a great story that can show them, hey, I've got this contract, this is what I do, I have these people here, this is gonna get me started, and I will be able to get them back by this time or date. We talk about how to do that in the book. You're definitely gonna wanna have a contract, and you're gonna wanna make sure that it's a no-brainer. And if it's family, man, I'm gonna urge a bunch of caution. So really, really, really make sure it is no question gonna be a no-brainer and success if you're even thinking of hitting the credit cards, HELOC, or other people's money. All right, so there's 3 ideas. Now 2 more. One, that a lot of people don't think about that they can actually use as getting maybe partial loan is to get it from their potential suppliers or vendors. And what this is that some suppliers, if you have good credit and you can set this up in advance with a vendor or a supplier, they may say, hey, yeah, we'll give you your product or your whatever it is you need up front, and you have 30 days to pay us. Well, realistically, that's a 30-day loan. So it can get you in trouble. You got to make sure you're rolling things in the right way. But sometimes you'll have vendors that will advance you equipment. They'll advance you inventory. They'll advance you other pieces. And that inadvertently is actually a loan that helps you finance your business. Now, the last way to consider, and this is an area that most people don't think about, but it's your customers. If you have a customer that you think that they're like, boy, I love what you do, this is going to be great, and we want you to get started on this, okay. Sometimes you can say, I need to get paid in advance, all, part, none, some of it. I need to buy this piece of equipment. Will you help me fund this piece of equipment? I've known multiple businesses that were able to get started in advance by getting their customers to actually fund them up front because the product or service they were providing was going to be so valuable to the end user. So it's a different way of looking at it, but gives you a variety of different ways to consider how can I get a loan to start a business. First one being that traditional bank method where you potentially have to co-sign, where you have a contract that helps mitigate that risk, but how do you show the bankers that it's safe? The second is looking at those alternative forms, which could be credit cards, home equity lines of credit, other people's money. Then we roll into the potential of potentially finding suppliers or vendors that'll help share part of that load for us. And lastly, in some cases, you can get lucky and find a great customer. So hopefully you found some value with that. If you have any questions, please don't be afraid of reaching out. And we'd love to hear from you. Click on the channel, check out some of the courses. Keep smiling.